The WSL returned last weekend and we were treated to a spectacle in North London. Arsenal took on title rivals Man City at the Emirates Stadium and an interesting match ended 2-2. We discuss our takeaways from the match and whether Arsenal deserved to win it. This is 5 things we learnt from Arsenal versus Manchester City. Alright, let's get into the big talking points from the big game on Sunday then. Manchester City drawing 2-2 with Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium. Let's start with our first takeaway from the game. Frida Maanum still has a big part to play. Now, I think going into this season there was a bit of a discourse that Maanum was going to be replaced. Last season we saw Miedemar come in and start to play that role. Obviously with the incoming now of Kafaji, a lot of people believe Kafaji was come in and play that role. But what we saw on Sunday is that Maanum is still a top player.
Yeah, very much so. I think, as you say, some people have kind of forgotten about her. Maanum's gone under the radar with the new signings coming in. And as you say, I feel like everyone did forget about her because there were so many options for Arsenal. As you said, it was Miedemar. Then you've got Kafaji, Llorente can play there. Kim Little can play there. But we're in a scenario now where Miedemar's gone. Llorente is obviously better on the left. Kafaji perhaps isn't ready to start and deliver from minute 1, and Kim Little's having to play deeper due to injuries in other areas.
Yeah.
So that has made the perfect scenario for Maanum to come in and perform to the highest quality. And from what we've seen to the start this season in the UWCL and in the game against Man City, is that she is going to come in and deliver very solid performances on a consistent basis.
Yeah, so I want to have a look at her first goal. Now, unfortunately, we can't show a clip here because if not, Sky Sports will take us to court. So instead, let's have a look at the goal with some still images then. Now, we'll start with the initial run because as you can see here, the space that Frida Maanum is in is absolute acre. You can already start to see City aren't tracking her run. And a lot of this is because of the movement of Stina Blackstenius. Because Blackstenius likes to play on the shoulder of the last defender, that drops that whole back four so deep, it leaves the space for Maanum to exploit. And obviously, as we move along, we can see the space that Frida Maanum has in the penalty area on the edge of the box. And obviously, it's a little bit fortunate that it comes off Blackstenius in the way it does, but Maanum is there to hit it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think as much as the Blackstenius half missing it, but also getting a touch on it did help Maanum. The finish was still brilliant to find the top corner, arrow it into the top corner. It was hit with such venom, but it was a very, very well taken goal, and that's what she does. If she's given the space, she will take advantage of it. You see so many players in attacking areas for not just for Arsenal, but for loads of teams. They'll get space, but they won't utilise that space. They won't maximise what they can do with the opportunity they've been given. Maanum's not like that. She will take everything she's going to get. You give her space and she's going to punish you exactly the way she punished Man City on Sunday.
Yeah, and that amount of space she had on the edge of the box, it felt very much that it was a direct consequence of City playing such an aggressive midfield.
Yeah.
You look at Park and Miedemar, and we're going to touch on both those in a moment because they both had good attacking games, but defensively they were left very open in transition because it was just Yui Hasegawa. Now I think Hasegawa is an absolutely fantastic player, but she can't cover every blade of grass, and so there was a lot of space in there, and ultimately that's what led to Maanum having that space to take that shot. Did really well when she got that opportunity. And good strike from Frida Maanum. A good way for Arsenal to open the scoring. Let's talk about City then in our second point. Manchester City struggling to build up. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't really find many pictures of this because the extended highlights didn't include it. It was just, there were so many highlights. They didn't include Man City just passing out from the back. But what we saw was a lot of City really struggling to find forward passes. They play it into Alex Greenwood. What they were trying to set up in was using three defenders, pushing Kirsten Kasperai on so Uahambi would sit a little bit deeper. So you end up with 3 defenders. Now, what a lot of teams do when they build up with a 3 is then they have a 2 in midfield. So you've got more options to pass to. However, they just had Yui Hasegawa. Now, I guess the idea around this is that they can bounce a pass off Yui Hasegawa, draw a runner onto Hasegawa, and open space up for Miedemar and for Park. However, Frida Maanum's positioning, absolutely excellent. Just player marked Frida Maanum, man marked Yui Hasegawa, so there wasn't then that option, and they just didn't seem to know who to pass. And then we saw Miedemar and Park both drop in to try and get involved. We saw at one point Khadija Shaw drop in, which is definitely not her best role. And so we ended up with a situation where City just didn't know how to progress that ball forwards because they weren't able to find Virginia or Kasperai in the wide areas. They were being marked by the wingers, because Arsenal were using a 4-4-2. So those options weren't on. And so they just kept recycling it between the three centre halves. Alex Greenwood made 100 passes in that game. City only made 500. So it's absolutely absurd. She's the only player who touched the ball. She was the only player in the WSL who completed over 100 passes in the opening game week. So it just didn't really not do with possession. I don't think it helped that Yamashita isn't as good at distributing it long as someone like Kiara Keating. We saw a lot of her distribution was short and very comfortable with the ball at her feet, but sometimes it does just need it to be lumped long and relieve the pressure.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, as you say, Alex Greenwood at one point in the match had double the touches of any other player in the game, and that says all you need to know is that they just couldn't go further than Greenwood, and it will be a big concern for Man City because if you can't build up, you can't play football because
they didn't create any chances.
Exactly.
Zero big chances created.
Yeah, you don't get anywhere if you can't build up. And yes, I think some of it is also down to the way Arsenal set up, but other teams can set up like Arsenal did. They'll watch the Arsenal game and they'll go, this is how we're going to respond to City trying to play. And obviously City, again, they will counter with a new way to build up, but that's going to take time. You can't just find a new way to build up in an instant. They're going to have to develop something, which means they're going to catch teams out, or they're going to find a new way to play, or they have to try something different. Because if they try and build up in the same way they did against Arsenal, they're going to get nowhere this season because they're going to create very few opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. I think, though, that any team that doesn't execute Arsenal's out-of-possession structure in the same way, there will be gaps for City that weren't there for other teams. So I think City will have better luck, and actually having Miedemar and Park in midfield against the smaller sides is going to give you more attacking overloads. Yeah. So you can look at it either way there, because obviously smaller sides will be easier for City to break down, will be easier for City just to knock the ball around. Yeah. So yeah, I think in that regard they might be all right. But yeah, City really struggling to build up in deep phases. Once they got into Arsenal's half, they were a bit more. They were able to link up a little bit better, but still not perfect. I think there's stuff for them to work on. At one point, the best part we saw was when they sent both fullbacks forward, because that meant they then had three defenders. There are three attackers in Arsenal's backline. Yeah. But rather than Fabinho dropping deeper, obviously that leaves them quite exposed. But what we saw was Hasegawa dropping in, Miedemar and Park playing as midfield too, which was bizarre, but it worked for a bit. And then they were able to make those combinations work and actually progress up the pitch. They had a few chances in the first half that perhaps could have come to something. But let's talk about City's goals then, because, as I mentioned, 0 big chances created in the game, both bits of individual play. And our third point is that Jess Park is magic. Now, we could have touched on Vivian Mear here, and I will mention briefly, she did well to take a couple of players on and took a huge deflection. So it wasn't solely Mear who got that goal, of course, with the deflection. But Jess Park, absolutely phenomenal. Someone who I think has been overlooked by so many WSL fans over the last season. Really starting to come into her own, and what a strike it was to cap it off on Sunday.
Yeah, very much so. I think the difference between what Park did and what Miedemar did is that Miedemar's, for me, without Park's goal, Arsenal still had the momentum and they would have gone on to win the game. If it wasn't for Park's bit of brilliance, then City would have lost for me on Sunday, because what her goal did, not only was it a phenomenal strike, you have to be, to bring it down and hit it on the volley and find the top corner from 20-25 yards out is phenomenal. For me, it's one of the goals it will be one of the goals of the season come the end of the campaign. But it was such a game-changing moment that, for me, really set Man City up, because once they took the lead through her wonder strike, it then meant Arsenal had a lot to had to fight very hard to even get back in the game, let alone win it. So they went from a position where they looked comfortable to win the game to actually finding it very, very difficult to even get a point. And that's what the best players do, and this is why we say Park is magic, because the best players, when their teams are up against it, they score incredible goals. They have incredible moments that completely flip the game on its head. That's what Jess Park did. She had a moment of magic, and she really helped City out in that game. Without her goal, they could have been in trouble. It meant they came away with a point. So for Park to do that, to step up and deliver that moment, is absolutely brilliant. And I think you're right. Since she came in to replace Jill Roord, she's replaced her beautifully. She's done very, very well to replace what Jill Roord does for Man City and what she provides. But definitely no one looks at her in the same way as you would a kind of Jill Roord player. And I don't mean that she's as good as Jill Roord, but she is a bloody good footballer.
It does open up some really difficult questions about how City will line up that midfield once Roord is back. Now, I know that's an issue that they have kicked that is, much further down the line. We don't expect Raw to be back before December, so they have got a couple of months to work that out. But yeah, they are definitely going to have a bit of a conundrum in there because you've got, well, Vivian Mear, who's just joined and is expecting to start in that attacking midfield role. I thought she had an okay game against Arsenal. Obviously, she took the goal, and so a lot of people have then just said she had a great match. I don't know if she really did. I thought the goal she took was very fortunate, and other than that, she's not a midfielder. I still don't think she's a midfielder. I thought some of the aspects of her play were okay, but there was nothing in there that I went, yeah, she's a great midfielder. I think she can do the job in attacking midfield, though. But because City don't play with two midfielders, they don't play with two deep midfielders and then an attacking midfielder. They play with one deep midfielder and then two more central midfielders. So there is a defensive responsibility for Miedemar, which I don't really think she's suited to that role. But they have got an issue because they've not signed any other midfielders. Yui Hasegawa is there, and I think you can throw Laura Coombs in, I guess, are their only deeper midfielders. Now either they've got to play Coombs and Hasegawa every game, or they've got to play unbalanced midfield. The issue with that first option is it means if one of them gets injured, you only have one player who can play as a deeper midfielder. So I think they've screwed themselves a little bit there. I think once Jill Roord comes back, we'll see her playing a slightly deeper role, and probably bit more of a box-to-box player than an attacking midfielder, and I think that will free up Park or Miedemar, whoever plays in attacking midfield, to be a bit more of an out-and-out creative outlet attacking player. So that will be decent, but until then they are going to have this unbalanced midfield, which I think will work fine against the weaker sides in the league. But against Arsenal, as we saw, they are so open on transition, and when they play against a midfielder with the quality of Chelsea's, you know what, I'm even going to throw Manchester United in there. I think they'll be really exposed. Maybe even Tottenham's midfield is so strong, and unless City work on that, they are going to get opened up, especially in transition when when the opposition can make an overload and City's midfield isn't able to track back and deal with that. So yeah, they are in a bit of a conundrum there, I think, at the moment. Their midfield balance didn't look right in all of pre-season, doesn't look right now. So yeah, I thought they were very fortunate at this point. They didn't, I don't think they played particularly well, City.
No.
But they scored the goals, and that's ultimately what matters. Let's go back to Arsenal then. And point number 4, Arsenal still lack clinicality. 6 big chances in this game. 4 of them were missed. The other 2, of course, put in the back of the net. But that is an awful amount of big chances missed. If you have strikers who take every chance, every big opportunity they have, you look at City and they've got players who take chances that shouldn't go in. Realistically, most players would miss those opportunities, but City's players are so good, they get goals from them. And then you look at the other end, and Arsenal have 6 big chances, 6 times where they should statistically have put the ball in the back of the net, and they didn't. And this could have been a drubbing had they put them away, because City was so open, especially in the first half, and especially in the last 15 minutes. So open defensively, but huge misses. Stina Blackstenius is one that jumps out to me in the first half, where she was played in behind, and this was great movement and timing from her, because she makes that run in behind. She's playing on the shoulder of the defender, she gets in behind. For me, she has to go to the right of Yamashita, or to the left of Yamashita, to the right. Because then either Yamashita dives in and fouls her, or you round the goalkeeper and you are then directly in front of goal. Instead, she goes left, and that means that Yamashita can sort of see her wide. It means defenders can get back in, and ultimately she managed to squeeze the shot wide. For me, that's a huge miss. That's a huge miss.
Yeah, I think the worry for Arsenal is that it's not just one player. In terms of when you see other sides lack clinicality, it's usually because their number 9 isn't scoring, or their attacking players are failing. For Arsenal, it's everyone. As you say, Blackstenius had an opportunity through on goal. Russo went through on goal.
That was the big one I was going to mention. Alessia Russo, she'd just come on 60 minutes. It was about 70 minutes. They played the ball in behind. It's a great run again. 1-on-1 with Yamashita, and it was a really poor shot. Poor shot.
But yeah, and Mead scored, but she still had opportunities. Karen Tay had chances. Ford had chances. There were so many players on that pitch for Arsenal that should have scored a goal on Sunday, and none of them can find the back of the net. I think the promising thing is that it is a slightly better problem than what they had last season. Last season, it's more against big sides, we saw against Herken, but they didn't create chances. But this season they're missing them.
But I think it is the same issue they had last season. It just looks differently. I think last season, if you look at the games where they played, in fact, they've added an extra issue to their attack, which is incredible. You'd think bringing in new players would mean they solve issues, not create new ones. But last season, they couldn't break down low blocks, and all the evidence we've seen to this season is that they still can't do that. Hare can set up wonderfully defensively, don't get me wrong, but Arsenal they've got the players to find a way through eventually, and they just didn't. And so when they play these more defensive sides than WSL, well, the only thing I can assume is that the same issue is going to arise. They won't be able to break them down. So we'll have to see. But at the moment, they don't know how to break down low blocks. Last season, in the big games against Chelsea, against Manchester City, they took their chances. They were cost by some defensive errors, like the Manchester United game and stuff like that, but ultimately they did take their chances when they arose. There were other games that didn't take their chances, but in the big matches, the players took their opportunities. In this game, they didn't. And now, again, I can see the argument that, you know what, they scored 2 goals, they did take some of their opportunities, City just got very fortunate with the opportunities they scored, and then, you know, on another day, that would have been 2-0 Arsenal, and a very comfortable 2-0 Arsenal. And I get that, but they are trying to win the title fight this season, and so, quite frankly, they had to win that game. They were the better team than Manchester City for all 90 minutes. There was not a spell where City were the better team, because even the 2 goals they took come against the run of play. City had a few opportunities where they brought the ball forwards, but even then Arsenal would win it back quite easily and bring it up the other way. Arsenal were in control of that game for 90 minutes, so to draw 2-2, for me, and I don't think this comes down to either, I think it comes down to the players, they should have done better on the day.
Yeah.
They had to take their chances.
I think it is one of those, they need to take their chances, they should have won the game. I think it's a hard one to criticise in terms of, I think City got lucky. I think if I had to weigh it up, I think it's more that City got lucky than Arsenal did anything wrong. I think they played very, very well. City's goals you couldn't stop because one took a massive deflection and one was an absolute wonder strike. And I don't think Arsenal did anything defensively wrong to concede those goals, but they should have scored more. But I think if we compare it to recent seasons, to ask them to score more than 2 goals against Man City seems, that would be a ridiculous claim. I think it's a hard, because they should have scored more than 2. But to score 2 at Man City is still a decent achievement in itself.
I get what you're saying, but I don't think this City side are as good as they were last season. I said it in all the previews, and after the Paris FC game, a lot of people were commenting saying that I was wrong about that. I still remain adamant in that belief. I don't think they look very good against Arsenal. I don't think they've got the team to go and take on big sides. I think they're going to massively miss Jill Ward until she's back from injury. I think they're going to massively miss Philippa Angeldal. They've just not replaced. They've got not got any balance in that midfield. So against top teams, they will be caught out. They were against Arsenal. They should have lost that game. By all metrics, they should have lost that game. And so, they will probably steamroll some of the other teams in the league because they are a very, very good attacking outfit. They play Brighton this weekend, and that'll be an interesting matchup. But I think they might just outscore them. And the fact they have no midfield balance won't matter because they're playing a side of lower quality. I'll be intrigued to see if Ilisic's side can set up super defensively and just stop City, because Arsenal proved it can be done. If you set up well defensively, City will struggle to find a breakthrough. And the only way they're going to do it is through wonder goals. Now, City can do that because City have players who will score wonder goals every week. But it felt preventable as well. The Marnham could have got in front of Jess Park. I'm not saying that, Jess Park's goal was absolutely ridiculous, but maybe Marnham could have got there. It was just, for me, a very frustrating one. As a neutral, I think Arsenal was so unlucky not to win that game because I thought they were a much better side. And I think City will count their blessings because they did not look very good.
Exactly that.
And let's get to our last point then, number 5. A bit more of a light-hearted one. There's been a lot of conversation about this online, though. McCabe's still a shithouse. I mean, still engages in the dark arts. We saw it with her cheeky little... Some people call it cheeky, some people called it malicious. How would you term it? Obviously, she makes a tackle on Chloe Kelly. Little and Kelly then collide. Little's on top of Kelly. And I have no idea why she did it, but McCabe lifts the ball over the 2 of them and jumps over it.
I don't mind it, because I think if she messes it up, then it's stupid. I don't think there's anything to it, really. I think it's just funny. It's one of those, you have to look at it and just go, that's brilliant. If she messes it up, it looks terrible. She didn't mess it up. It was quite... and to be honest, I get it, because if you think... to put logic behind it, I think... every Man City, everyone on the pitch expected her to go left. So in hindsight, you're gonna adjust to that and think that she's gonna go, to the left of the bodies, and then you can kind of cut her off, or you can say if she goes over them, no one thinks that's coming. Yeah. And I think you have to give her credit. It's McCabe doing what she does. But overall, I think when she was playing as well as she did, she can do whatever she wants. And I think, the Katie McCabe of last season probably would have either messed that up, tried to do it and failed, or something else would have actually ended up, I don't know, standing on the two. Exactly, standing on both the bodies. But yeah, when McCabe, she played too well, I think she deserves to do something a little bit cheeky.
Yeah, she had an overall really good game. I agree with people saying it's disrespectful. My difference there, though, is what's the issue? It's a game between the two sides that are fighting for the title. You want to disrespect your opponent.
Yeah.
I don't see the issue with it. Yeah, it makes a bit of a mockery of Kelly on the floor, but that's the rivalry, that's the fierceness you want in a game like this. And I understand why City fans are a bit annoyed about it, but I personally that's what I want to see more of them, sort of a bit more rivalry, a bit more animosity. I want there to be a bit of a storyline. Without Emma Hayes and Idabel now, there isn't really a huge clash of personalities, a huge rivalry to have. Of course, Chelsea and Arsenal don't get on, and there's a rivalry amongst the fan base, but I think on the pitch they're all quite pally-pally. Katie McCabe, if she could just keep pissing everyone off, we could have a really exciting bit of animosity in the game, which I think you don't want it to spill over and become ridiculous, but a little bit of fight, a little bit of a competition and contest, I think is a good thing for the sport.
Yeah, and the reasons I don't find it disrespectful is that Kim Little is also on the floor.
Why? I
don't know, but McCabe's gone over both of them, so she's clearly not disrespecting Kelly because Little's also on the floor. She was just dinking it over them. The second thing is Kelly wasn't injured. If Kelly was injured, then it's that'd be horribly disrespectful.
I guess you could say she had no way of knowing if Kelly was injured or not. McCabe when she flicked it over. I don't know why she flicked it over.
No, it's just I think it's one of those. It's unexplainable. You have to enjoy it. I think it was one of those where she was just playing so well that she felt she could do anything.
Maybe so.
And it at the end of the day, it worked. It led to a goal.
On the list of things that Katie McCabe has done, will do, and can do, it ranks very low on the list of seriousness. So you know what, I'm all for it. I don't mind if she's going to have a bit of a laugh. And I am one of Katie McCabe's biggest critics. I think a lot of her antics frustrate me deeply, but I didn't mind this.
Yeah, well done, McCabe.
Just a bit of fun.
Made it interesting.
In a very heated game. But so that was the first big match of the WSL season. We'll be back analysing the rest. Not really a big game this weekend, so we'll wait and see what happens, and then we'll be back with more analysis next week. If you haven't checked out already, we did do a preview for a review of match week 1 of the WSL season. That went out on Monday, so make sure to go and give that a click. That'll be on screen now. That is everything from us today. Then make sure to join us. We're live on Thursday, Friday and Sunday this week. Thursday for Arsenal versus BK Häcken, Friday for Chelsea Palace, and Sunday for City versus Brighton. So we're live a lot. Join us for all of it. But that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.